Okay, so my next thing I'd love to kind of pick your brain at is bilocation, kind of using like the psionics helmet and then
Hmm.
plugging it into the input or the output of the machine, or how you'd go about doing that, and kind of being able to get that kind of vision, wherever. I Is it called bilocation?
Well, are you talking like what do you call basically remote viewing? Is that what you're
Remote
talking about?
viewing, exactly. Yep.
Okay. Um, well, I'll tell you what. Let's kind of go how we use the helmet first, and then I can tell you some stories. How about that?
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
If I get too far out in the weeds, reel me back in. Okay. All right. Because I mean, I can talk about this stuff all night. All right. Basically, the helmet is it was the brainchild of Charles Casamano. If you'll look at, I think it's book Elementary Psionics, you'll see a basic model for that helmet. And what this is, the helmet that I sell through JS, for example, um, it's just it's an upgraded. We refined it, made it as powerful as possible. And it's battery operated. That's what the power source is, just a 9-volt transistor battery. Um, and here's how you can use this thing. If you're trying to use this to get into the mind of somebody or people, or say a community, for example, you would plug take the helmet. There's like a jack on the back of the helmet. You plug it in the jack. Then you take the other, yeah, exactly. And then you take the other end of that lead and you plug that into the input of the machine. You tune the machine for the target area. You tune the dials on the helmet for that target area or who you're trying to contact. And then what you'll notice here, your brain will start to focus. I don't know how it works, but how during the day, how the average person, you're always thinking about different things. You easily get distracted. You're concentrating on something. You're thinking about, oh, what am I going to have for dinner? I need to call this person in 5 minutes. Just a million different things, right?
Yeah.
Uh, well, one thing about this helmet is I've noticed your thoughts will concentrate toward that target or toward the goal or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish or what have you.
Yeah.
All right. Now, remote viewing. Remote viewing is really strange, and I have a story about that one too. The first time I ever tried to use this helmet for remote viewing, and I'm about as psychic as a doorknob. Okay, right? I don't think I have that talent. If I do, it's well hidden because I don't realize I have it. All right, but if you're trying to remote view something, real simple. Get the address or the approximate location or whatever it is you're trying to remote view the person, something that represents that person. Okay, you put that on the input plate and you tune the machine for that person. Then you tune or to contact that person or to view that person. Then you tune the helmet the same way, and you're going every step's the same except you're going to plug it on the output of the machine. You're going to plug it on
Okay.
the okay. Now, my first my first experiment in remote viewing was this person up in lived in Philadelphia, and they were telling me, "Well, hey, I'm pretty, I'm psychic. I can pick up when somebody's trying to remote view me and that kind of a thing. I could tell. I can sense it." And I said, "Really?" And well, being the practical joker, as we were discussing earlier, that was the wrong thing to say to me. So what I did was I said, "Oh heck, I'm gonna go ahead and mess with this person." So I tuned the machine as I just mentioned, and tuned it for their apartment. And what I did was, within about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, I started seeing flashes or pictures, mental pictures of their apartment. I was seeing like they have a bar right next to the kitchen. I could see these bar stools around the bar. I could make up like the TV on the wall right above the mantel of the fireplace.
Wow.
Uh, Sofas, the way they had the furniture arranged in the apartment, that kind of a thing. And then I get a call back about, I think I only did this like for 4 or 5 minutes. I really wasn't, it was just an experiment. Then I get a call back from them. And they said, "Were you trying to remote view me?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Tell me, were you trying to remote view me? Were you here?" And I said, Why do you ask? I said, somebody was here, and I need to know who the hell it was. And I said, you know, and they were like really pressuring me. And I said, yes, yes, okay. I finally gave in. I said, yes, I was doing that. I just want to see if I could do it. And they said, well, you were here, and don't do that ever again. I said, okay. Well, I'm sure I did it again. But anyway, you know, but the whole point of it is that's my first try. Maybe it was beginner's luck, what have you. Another thing I was working on, and this was really an interesting experiment. Was they had a tropical storm that came in. I think it was like 2 years, maybe 3 years ago. Dr. Liz lives about 100, maybe 7,500 miles off the coast, off of North Carolina, and so you know, the weather was talking that storm was going to land near her, and if it got on shore, I figured there'd probably be a lot of property damage, you know, and there'd be just a lot of chaos in her. So what I did was, as an experiment, all I did was I went to AccuWeather.com, and they had a satellite tracking of the hurricane. Okay, you can see it going across. You know, it was like you know, about every 1 or 2 minutes they give you an updated photo of the hurricane. All right. So what I did was I started that, tuned the machine to go into the hurricane, and when I did that, I would say, look, again, it was very, very short period of time. Within a couple of minutes, I was there. I could feel it. I could hear it. I could see it. I could smell it. And again, it's just inside my mind. I was there. Okay. And basically, all I was trying to do was, you know, just to kind of mentally shift it. I don't want to disperse the energy, because if you disperse the energy, it's going to go somewhere else. All I wanted to do was to move away. And keep stay away from land, or whatever, and just move it away. That's what happened. It moved. It instead of landing, it actually went away. I think it may have landed further north of her location, but the whole point of it was I was trying to keep it away from her location, and that was doing with that helmet. Now, Uncle Chucky, he's a bit of a prankster himself, and he said that he did an experiment with Saddam Hussein back before the Gulf War. He was getting in his mind, you know, telling him to move his troops here. It'd be great to have a battle with these people. He'd make him, you know, king of the world, that kind of thing. You know, just kind of feed his mind with a bunch of bull. And so he would go back and forth. And sure enough, within I think 3 weeks, maybe a month later, Hussein actually had a battle with a certain group or from another country, and you know, with what Chuck was trying to do with them. And then Chuck was, I think he was messing with the UK because he was upset about some kind of censorship issue they were having. And so what he would do, he said he was projecting hardcore pornography into the minds of over in UK, you know, as his way of messing with them. And I thought, okay, that's your thing. Go, you know, I got better uses of my time. But, okay. All right.
Well, you know, that's what's so cool. He is very much a mad scientist in that type of way, and just thinking outside the box. And you know, like for certain, using the helmet, like when I work with an entity and use that helmet, it's like I get all right. It's the landscape is attuned, okay. All right, the entity where we're standing, okay, and now the color of the landscape, and then it's like the energy's brought to life, and so you know I kind of get pulled to a magnetized location that's kind of like, you know, we both me and the spirit's landscape we created together. So I've done that, but like going to a location, I haven't done anything other than once with the moon, and I felt like it was really robotic. And there's something weird going on with it. I mean, like in all reality, it's the only star of everything we have that doesn't move all the way around. You know, there's something very suspicious. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I could go into the moon thing. It's just you know, I still haven't gotten over how human beings are able to survive the radiation from the radiation belt that's, you know, just a couple hundred miles above us, you know, in space.
Yeah.
Because the radiation is so powerful, and this was told to me by Mobius, the guy I mentioned earlier. This guy's like a electrical engineer. You know, he's just the guy is a walking brain. Okay, just
Yeah.
a really highly intelligent guy. He told me, he said, when you get about 350 miles away from the Earth, the radiation is so powerful there that you can see it in your eyes. That your eyes will start to spark from the radiation levels. All right. Now that tells me you got these guys going, deeper and deeper into it. By the time they get to the moon, they're going to be a couple of crispy critters. They're not going to even be alive. They're going to be dead from radiation poisoning, or they're going to be fried.
Yeah, unless there's, I guess, is that where gold comes in, and that's why it's such an amazing element to do X, Y, and Z, or
Well,
is it?
I thought lead was supposed to be the one that they had. The only way they could prevent themselves from dying of radiation poisoning. Again, it's just people that have their opinions. Okay,
Mhm.
they had to basically be encased in lead. There's no lead on that lunar module. There was no lead there on the lunar lander because weight was a very important thing. They can only take a certain amount of weight there. And so I don't know. Again, that's just one of those
It is
things.
questionable. I think I know where you're going with it, and the thing is I could see them staging it not to be something real because it's something that they can't control and it's otherworldly, and so they're
Yeah.
like, we're gonna just control the narrative once again, like.
Well, the thing about it is, you got to remember the time that this happened. We were at the height of the Cold War. I mean, just a few years earlier, they were having kids, go under their desk, in case of a nuclear flash.
Yeah, duck and cover.
Yeah, duck and cover. There's always the threat of nuclear war, and we got this propaganda thing going back and forth, with the Russians or the Soviet Union and the Chinese and that kind of thing. And that's the reason why the Olympics were such a big deal. Really, basically, it was the U.S. against the Soviet Union. That was the Olympics. The U.S. against the Russians. Okay, that was how
That's
these were the
awesome.
arch foes. These are the arch foes. The rest of the other countries are just there to be there.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's how it was, during that time. And but yeah, you kind of you got to look at that. You got to look at what if we actually failed, and what kind of a how disheartening that would be to to the American public. And that kind of thing. I mean, who knows? Some people will really get upset and they'll get pissed if you question it. Well, I have a critical mind. I have to question these things. When I presented with certain facts and they don't make sense to me, I have to
Yeah.
question it. It's
Oh,
just
absolutely. And you see that now with when it came to, we'll just say, whoever got the beer virus, and that whole do this and the propaganda being fed down, you need to do this, and now there's things coming out on different places like morticians. They're finding the people who got the shot in a certain age group, the different constraints and things within their blood vessels and clots, and it just comes to show it's like they're just feeding you in there. Are you going to now follow these rules, these regulations? And it's a war. It honestly is a mind spiritual warfare out there, and they're trying to hit us. So then what? So get rid of the population so then they can push automatronics and be able to once
yeah,
again pull the difference between having money and not having money, building utopulous utopia for these people. And I do see that that's what they're trying to do in this long run. And it's like, we got to make the change now as a society. Otherwise, it's hoping the government's going to help. That's comedy. I didn't know I was a comedian, and that's it.
oh yeah. I tell you, if you want to watch something, get somebody that's wearing this facial apparatus. Okay, I'm trying to make this YouTube friendly. Wearing a facial apparatus. Okay, all right. Get a box of those things and flip it over and ask them to read the warning label on the back, and it will tell you right in bold print it will not protect you from what they're wearing this facial apparatus for. And you just get a box of them, let them read it. And here's the funny thing about it: most of them just go, whatever, and it doesn't even register. They're saying it with their
Yeah.
that this thing is worthless to them. All this is just a fashion statement, or they're just whatever. But they don't think about it. They don't give it another thought.
Yep.
Because somebody told them that this thing will protect them. They accept it.
And I mean, it even goes to the extent of like talking about the hybrid program where they have been working on half human, half this and that, and then you can eventually pull up the facts or things, and people will get to the point where they're like, I don't care, and it's just like, wow, you really don't care. You talk about the beer virus, I don't care.
I
It's
don't
like,
care.
what do you mean? Like, you don't think outside that box? You don't think that there's some weird agenda going on, or you look at 2030, that agenda, and just the bigger picture? And that's the thing. I think people do stay at a lower level versus having that eagle vision of seeing all the factors and things going on. And like, kind of like going back to them starting to destroy information about radionics in the early 1900s. It's like, why they do that? Well, it's another way to get rid of another shackle. They just want you
Yeah,
to be shackled up.
yeah, exactly. If it, originally the downfall of radionics in the beginning, and I know it was a plus, but it turned into a negative due to the fact that they were stepping on a lot of toes. A lot of physicians and what have you were using radionics for health purposes, and they either they would wind up in jail, they would be fined, they had their licenses taken away for medical quackery. It was a lot of stuff. These machines would be destroyed, and I mean I have one of them from that era, like from 1924, and it's one of the oldest. Yeah, it's one of the oldest. You know, I wouldn't say mass production, but it was one of the first radionics machines that was constructed, for the general public. This
Wow.
thing was expensive. I imagine at the time it probably cost as much as a nice car would cost today. But
Wow.
oh yeah, but the whole point of it is, they got in trouble when they started using these things for health purposes. And whenever somebody contacts me and say, "Well, I want to use this for health," I tell them I will not give you any kind of advice on using radionics for that. I could say to improve your well-being. I could say that. Like a vitamins. Vitamins, they may have no claims that, but they claims that they may claim that it will help this, it will help that, it will help that. It's a supplement.
Yeah.
Yeah, but using it as a medicine, hell to the no. I will not in no way uh, give anybody any advice. And usually I just tell them Google radionics and health, and you'll find a ton of information out
Yep.
there, and do your own research, because I'm not going to do this. And that's how these people got in trouble, and I refuse to go that route. It's
Ex-
that you know it's just
Yeah, because there is definitely a line in the sand that you have to be able to cover your own rear, even if it isn't, rightful, like, because we can't say certain words because it can trigger certain things. But just bringing around the fact that the fact is the fact that there's a reason it's covered up, and there's also a reason why they don't want you to talk about certain things, because then they won't be making money in their pharmaceuticals, and it's all the overarching, it's our way or whatever. But I have heard some stories that JS has done with the machine as well as his rights, and I learned his deification right, and because when my father passed away from cancer, one of the things that like hit me so hard was like, what could I do to make that never happen to anyone who like take that option of, oh, radionics or a sacrificial rite or whatever it would take, and like me to be able to say, then cool, then let me go forward and do it, and just kind of taking everything to the next level so I could get, my it's just something my spirit kept calling me to kind of learn and figure out and evolve
Mhm,
into, and
mhm.
it's been really awesome, and it feels like, once again, that there's don't be so limited in the way of thought and the process. Now, how things go about and why things happen, that's a mystery, and that's a part of the magic and beauty of radionics. It's like, not 100% sure why this is all working, but like, when you do a ritual, stare into a fire, project that psychic energy into it to bring about manifestation, it's like that does a way about bringing it. So it is some sort of technology that we don't understand, but you know, ancient history beforehand. It's like the freaking Star Wars. It
Right.
goes beyond what we know, you know. So it's, I don't know. It's really it's mind-boggling, kind of the things that can be accomplished. And you know, like even for my own well-being, I've tried some things like with the magic wand, like
Hmm.
having a headache and just, you know, shooting it at myself saying, I don't have a headache anymore, you know,
Right.
and I've seen that that's worked. And that's just my hand chakra shooting out that thought form into my own head by myself, and it
Right.
helped out the process. So
Right.
uh, it's like, wow, how the hell's that work?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think Chuck said several times before on JS's show uh, that he foresees in the next I don't know 5-10 years that most magicians will start incorporating heavily radionics with their practices. The
Yeah.
reason why is it's so simple and it's so fast. I mean, basically, all you have is the entity you're trying to contact. Uh, in their particular belief system, they need to provide some kind of a blood sacrifice. You could probably, and again, that's not my thing. Me personally, I don't. It's just, but for their belief system, say a couple of drops of blood with on the sigil, along with I guess, a brief detail or a brief message or something that represents the target they're trying to change or trying to help, and then put those two things on a radionics machine, tune the machine for that energy and for this particular thing to take place with the target. Once they tune it, they take the picture of the target only, put that on the copper, leave the sigil along with the blood or whatever on the input copper, or on the input copper plate. Excuse me. You put the target on the plastic, the input uh, or the sigil on the blood stays on the copper.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
it's even the energy, if you put yourself on the output and you just use electricity, or if you have the input of a spirit, I've definitely noticed the energy change within me. I did it with Azazel, and I did it to go over my energy body, and I could just feel the energy as well as hear the entity so much more clear with that going on. But I know, like the Genesis box, doing that with yourself, if I wanted to get any sleep that night, I would need to definitely turn that off after, you know, a couple
Right.
hours.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like, whoa, hey everyone, I don't sleep. I don't
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
And that's also, it's just pretty hardcore that even something as simple as that to be able to give you energy is like, do you have a favorite machine like for a purpose or?
Well, yes, I do. Matter of fact, give me a second here. This one is, and oh yeah, this. I don't know if you can see this. Let me move this window so I can make sure I got it on
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, I see that. I see that. What
Okay.
on earth?
Okay. Yeah, this is one of my first 12-valve machines. I built this, and you notice there's no stick pad on the thing or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I used to have, because at the time I was kind of concerned about the space because I had 12 knobs here. It was one of my first 12 knob machines, uh, and I built this I guess probably about 4 years ago, and it's just a prototype. I've been kind of bouncing around with it, and I finally came up with uh, the final way of constructing this more efficiently. I think it was like middle of last year, but that's beside the point. Anyway, you'll notice there's two jacks on here, and all I did was basically plug in a external stick plate on this for the input, and external copper plate for the input, and external plastic plate for the output. Now,
Hmm.
here's the thing. I've gotten to the point now where I don't do any of that. Now, I'll tell you what I do. Basically, I will on my desk. I will use my desk as a stick plate. But I've been doing this so many years. Uh, I would turn the knob with my left hand, and while I'm doing that, I would just rub my thumb across the top of my desk until I got a stick. And I just did that. And I don't even need a stick plate or any kind of an input on there for this particular machine. Nothing. I've gotten to that point. But again, it's just one of those things where I've been doing this for years, and I've done it thousands and thousands of times. So it's gotten to the point where it's just second nature. It's kind of like riding a bicycle. Even if you haven't ridden a bicycle for years, you can get on one and immediately start pedaling. You got your balance and
Yeah,
everything. Yeah, you never forget.
definitely. Exactly. It's kind of like one of those tools in the sense of knowing it's like a part of you. Like once you learn how to do a candle magic spell, or once you learn how to attune the box, and like I named every single one of my boxes
Hmm.
because it's built actually this personal type of connection with it, and kind of bringing about like its own nature, its own personality, which honestly is a thought form. But like, I mean, my War Machine's named Rex, and I think that that's
Okay.
like he's a big T Rex. Like, don't mess
Okay.
with him, man. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
then I got Ananata, which is a Sanskrit word for like infinity. And then obviously I have a Mulder box,
Ah, nice.
yeah. Oh, it's a limited edition. Oh, I saw on Joshua P. Warren's website different sigils, and I knew that there was like some for wealth, and then as well as like ones for like kind of bringing supernatural activity to life. And so I didn't know if you had any good kind of insight or cool stories, kind of like relating to those, whether it's UFOs or a Sasquatch or
Oh,
money or whatever the case.
say stories concerning sigils. Is that what you're talking about, or
Yeah,
just?
yeah. Like just from the Joshua P. Warren website, his weird.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, when it comes to sigils, I learned a thing from Chuck. As a matter of fact, he was selling these. Chuck's sort of like a guru of mine. I
Hmm.
kind of, I got started by reading his book, Elementary Psionics, and the rest is history. I just started, taking a little bit of my own personality, research and development, and working to refine that tech and make it, commercially available at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
And, right. And so, but this one thing that he was selling were these handmade sigils. And I'm going, handmade sigil. What the hell's a handmade sigil? And I got on Skype with Chuck one night, and basically what he showed me was he would take a piece of paper on the like flat on his desk, and he would take a lead pencil or a pen, whatever, and he would start scribbling on there, just basically automatic writing. And what he was creating through those scribbles was a physical representation of a thought form uh, of a certain thing that he wanted to accomplish. And so he would go through this, and when you look at it, it looked like gibberish. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a ball of confusion. Literally, it just looked like a ball of confusion. And but and but that was for Chuck. That was a physical representation again of a certain objective or certain project or what have you of what he's trying to accomplish, including all the entities that were involved in this project and that kind of thing.
Oh
And
wow,
yeah,
wow.
and I've done the same thing myself, and it's real simple to do. Basically, you just concentrate on what it is you're trying to do, and you just let the pencil move by itself. And when you're done, you'll know instinctively when you're done because the pencil will just drop out of your hand.
So is that when you're drawing that out? Not only are you visualizing what you desire, but every entity, whatever energy, you're putting everything into that on the input plate. Wow. And then that's once you're done, you put it on the output plate.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
okay. All right, I just got finished making one as you were saying that. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
this is about what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that. It's just a
Yeah. Oh, dude. Right on.
okay. That's what it looks
Yeah.
like.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a
It's
chaos
just
sigil.
yes. Well, or it represents what it was that I was trying to accomplish, or that I want to accomplish with this sigil, this thought form I was trying to create. Which leads
Yeah.
into another thing. I wanted to show people this little thing that I learned from Joshua P. Warren, and I kind of refined it for myself. It's called pumping chi, and I like to talk about this every once in a while because what this will do, this will prove to you there's something really strange going on. There's some kind of energy, life force within your body, and all you need is a static voltmeter. All you need is a static voltmeter. And I did this experiment with a good friend of mine who was electronic engineer also, and he was one of the guys that set the satellite system for CNN back in the 70s, back in the beginning days of CNN. He was like good friends with Ted Turner, the whole 9 yards, and and back before he met Jane Fonda, which anyway, uh, anyway, anyway, no, but he was good friends with Ted Turner, and so the guy had like I think he won Inventor of the Year award twice. I mean, just a really sharp human being here. Anyway, what this is, uh, you, how I do this. I'm gonna show you how to do it. Then we'll go to an explanation. The way I do it: left hand, palm facing the ceiling. Right hand, palm facing the floor, immediately above. And as you do this, as you start to rotate your hand, you will start to feel a magnetic field in between your hands. As you feel that magnetic pull or resistance between your hands, you immediately start projecting a thought into it, like an objective, like I want to find a parking space at the grocery store when I get there, real close to the door because it's bad weather. I want a close parking space or whatever. It could be a million different things, and you project that into this little ball of energy. And as it builds and builds and builds, instinctively you'll realize, okay, this is enough, and you just fling it into the ether, just like that. Okay, just like that. And what that will do, that will not, you'll be surprised how more times than not the thing that you were trying to accomplish will be accomplished. I used to use that all the time in my job. I need to have a customer call me, or I was going to call a customer, and I need to have a transaction go take place, or what have you. And I would go in their mind, and I would do this, and I would think about the customer, about what I need to accomplish, and just do that. And then 5 or 10 minutes later, they either call me or I'll call them and say, "Oh, I was meant to call you," and that kind of
wow.
thing.
Well, yeah. I see. It's funny. So as I was growing up, my dad, I would walk in circles as a little kid, and he would have Mozart music on. And I remember how it would always get my imagination. And my dad was always baffled because he was reading books about building your energy by going in a circle like that and doing that. And then he was learning about chi balls, but I've always had my arm on my right one down and my left above. And it's kind of like you can feel it a little bit, but the way you just described it with the left on the bottom, dude, the amplification is ridiculous by having the left hand down. That's crazy.
Like that. Yeah. And here's a little side note, getting back to the engineer. The reason why I brought him up was, and we did this experiment. I did the very same thing, and I would fling, and he had like this little static voltmeter, and just right, about I would say maybe about 18 inches, 2 feet from me. I would do this, and I would fling it toward the voltmeter. You know what happened to that needle? It would go like that. No physical contact. No physical contact whatsoever. And no way in hell was I creating static electricity. My hands never touched each other. And you could say, oh, you're rubbing your hands, you're creating static. No, nothing like that at all. They never physically touched each other. I was just creating a ball of energy. And then I fling it toward that voltmeter. And sure enough, you got a reaction.
And that's kind of like where it comes down to if there's someone on a black screen, television, whatever, and you had a helmet, you could do kind of psionic warfare by attacking that way. Like, that's kind of one of those, once again, it's how do you want to use it?
Yeah.
How do you go with that?
Yeah, exactly. And, imagine this is kind of a quick fix. So you have a machine at home, and I've done this before myself. You have a machine at home, and you need to use the machine to tune it for a certain thing that's going on, and you can't wait. You gotta get that thing going. Just pump the chi, imagine the machine, and then imagine the objective that you want that machine to do, and fling it into the universe, into the ether, and it will activate that machine. I don't know if it'll be as good as if you were to physically touch it and turn the machine, but I've done that also.
I remember hearing kind of about, I think it was a weather, that you just kind of flung it at the machine instead of dialing it in.
That was the Kuwait thing. Yeah, I never touched the machine. I'm looking at it right now. I never physically touched the machine. All I did was do this. I went to snow, winter storm, snow, Kuwait, Christmas Day, and I just did that toward the machine. That's all I did. Never physically changed the dials. The dials are already dialed in for the, for that part of the world. and I already had like the thing was already set up for the last experiment I did over in that part of the world. And so all I did was just put more conscious energy into the machine. That's all I did,
Wow,
or more
dude.
psychic.
Plugging in the helmet into the machine, making your own sigil, putting that on the input, then making a cymbal, and then plugging that in, the dial of the machine. Dude, that's some crazy stuff right there. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
like I don't know, that 101 guide to the samurai way, man.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that's the whole point I'm trying to make here is this stuff is it's not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. It's designed. Sure, the older machines, they look complicated. In reality, they were a little complicated, but they were, you could kind of, you could kind of, sense it. It's like dealing with a new app on a phone. You don't really read the instructions on how to use the app. You just kind of get in, kind of like you have it. You're intuitively, which button to press and what it does. You figure it out real fast, right? It's the same with these machines. But my point here was, I was dealing with a lot of people who never heard of this technology before, and I wanted to keep it as simple as possible for them and as affordable as possible for them. And so, in the beginning, I never really even had numbers on the dials because people ever talk about inverting the position of the machine, and I realized numbers, yeah, they have their use case. Okay, yeah, I get all that, but what proved to me that numbers were irrelevant was I had a gentleman who was visually impaired. He couldn't even see the dials. Okay, and he was able to use this machine and get everything he needed. They were very effective for him. He didn't see the numbers. No way. I mean, he just basically goes to he just goes to a dial, go get a stick or whatever, however he tuned the machine, and when he got that stick, then yes, the thing worked as advertised. So that just kind of proved to me, the numbers, it's just there. I get it. They wanted to make it a scientific device, and so I kind of went retro, and I took the numbers off for a couple of years, and I decided, what the heck, I'm gonna put them back on there just because it's old school. And,
and because then if they want to invert, they can invert if they know about the ability to invert.
Yeah, exactly. But
now,
go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, again, I set up the machines where I try to make them as intuitive as possible, where they're as simple as possible, where you don't need all the bells and whistles like some of these other machines have. And they're all great machines. I'm not putting down any of the technology. I'm saying they're all great machines. It's just realize that, when you got somebody that's new to this thing, you don't want to overwhelm them. You want to keep it as simple as possible, but then get in the game immediately, and they don't have to overthink things.
Exactly. Yeah, completely. Because, I mean, there was a little bit of a learning curve, but it's like, once you realize you can't mess it up, that's when you can really get into it. And it is an extension. Now, when it came to, like wealth or money, would you see anything different from you putting a intention down that you desire versus having some bad individual on the input plate and Santolak on the output plate? Do you see a difference in what manifests depending on an entity versus like you doing it your own self?
Yeah. All right. The first time I ever met JS was through a mutual associate, and we did this first time I ever met the guy, and I didn't even know where he was from. Just so happens he's like within a 2-hour drive of me, but that's beside the point. Anyway, and he was going to offer a free ritual for people, and we all did a vote. I think it was like a health or let's say well-being. I think like relationships and money. Okay, and so what we decided to do, the vote was money. Everybody decided, oh yeah, we all want to do a ritual for money. So that's what he did. He what's the
Santolak?
Santolak. Okay, yeah, I think that was the one for money. It represents wealth or opportunity, that kind of thing. Okay, use that, and they want everybody to use a drop of blood on the sigil, put that on the sigil, and I wasn't going to do that. I don't want my DNA involved. That's just me. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I did was, at the time, I had a client who's out of Mexico, whose brother. She heard through the grapevine that her brother was going to be kidnapped by human traffickers and being held for ransom, and they were going to, try to get her to pay ransom. And she was hearing all this stuff, and the person that was involved in this has a track record for doing very naughty things. So this person, that's their occupation. So what I did was I got the name and a picture of her, of the human trafficker down in Mexico, and put that as a sacrifice for this particular experiment, as a sacrifice to this entity. Instead, I didn't use my DNA, and and for wealth. And so I tuned a machine for this very same thing, and to basically, hey, if you need a sacrifice, go for it. Take that piece of shit, get them off the face of the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go for it. You have my blessing. Do as you see fit. I don't care. All right, because just have at it. Consider this a 5-star dinner. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So anyway, did that, and sure enough, opportunities arose for me that increased my work situation. We'll just put it that way. I was pretty happy with the entire thing, and that's how I got in business with JS as a result of that.
Oh wow.
Of that one experiment. But as a caveat to this, for most people, if you don't want to get that far in the weeds, and me personally, I don't really deal in magic myself when it comes to radionics. It's just me. If I'm going to deal, I'll deal like with archangels like Michael, Raphael, as you mentioned earlier, or something along that line. But what I would do is, for money, don't wish for the money itself. Wish for the thing that you want the money for. All right? Because it's easier for the operator. It's easier for the operator to visualize that brand new car or that new house than just a pile of cash. Okay, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard. It's kind of hard to have an emotion. Well, you can't have an emotional attachment to a pile of cash, but I assure you,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But the point of it is, you have more of you can visualize the end game, which is what do you want that money for, and tune the machine for that. For the very for the end results, which is that's that again, that car or that house, whatever it may be. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. That's my helpful hint. That's how I would personally do it. That's what I suggest in the directions that I include when I sell the machines. Let's see. What else? I don't want to lose track here.
Oh no. There is. I was gonna also ask about the supernatural aspect. If you've ever done anything with the machine, whether there's a sigil or not, that made something wild happen, like UFOs.
UFOs. Well, of course. Let's see. Everybody can look this up. I did a project with Joshua P. Warren. He was living in Puerto Rico at the time. It was called the Arecibo Project. You can look this up. I think that's the name of the actual website, the Arecibo Project or Arecibo Project. Or you can go to Joshua P. Warren's website and you'll find a link for it. Okay. All right. What it was, back in the early mid 70s, the radio telescope out of Ohio had picked up what they call the wow signal. And basically, it wasn't an audio signal. It was just zeros and ones. It was just a computer representation of a signal that the radio telescope picked up. And it had a certain frequency to it, by the way. I think I don't remember what the hertz was. I think it's like around 432 was the hertz signal or something along that line, the frequency. Anyway, what they wanted to do was they wanted to, in celebration of the wow signal, it's just one of those things, when Joshua was trying to, want to do something, and got George Nori involved in this from coast to coast.
Oh wow!
And he read like a welcome to to whoever might be hearing this broadcast, and good luck to Josh with his project, something along that line, and so. That fateful day, he sets up this camera at a location, and he gave me the longitude and the latitude, and I was on one of 3 people in the entire world that knew where that camera was located at. All right,
Oh boy.
it was Joshua, Mobius, the tech guy, and myself. We were the only 3 people who knew where the location was. All right, my job was to try to create or have him photograph a UFO at that location.